relationally, what I say to parents is AI is the new porn talk. We typically have to convince parents to have a conversation about pornography because it's uncomfortable. Maybe not so that it's uncomfortable with AI. We need to have conversations about AI because we don't understand it. So we need to talk about it and sort of do our research and then have these conversations because it's moving faster than any other technology that we've ever experienced.
Hello, welcome back to School of Love, where we want to help you create parent-child relationships where you can talk about anything, especially about sex. And today I have Chris McKenna with me. And yeah, Chris McKenna has been here before, and he's the founder of Protect Young Eyes and very dedicated to protecting our kids whenever they're connected to the internet. So thanks so much for coming, Chris.
It is great to be back, Amelia, because as you know, especially with technology and the way that our kids are interacting with it, it is changing all of the time. And so we could probably have this conversation about once a month, right?
Totally. Yeah. Chris, before we get into our topic, which is what all parents should know about AI, which is really a hot topic these days, I'd love for you to introduce your new book, which is really exciting, new creation of yours. Would you like to let us know about it?
Sure. No, I'd be happy to do that. And it's the first of 3 that will be coming out over the next 12 or so months. One for parents, then one for little kids coming out ages 4 to 7, and then one for tweens, 8 to 12. But the one that's coming up here in a couple of months, and depending on when people are listening to this, it will release on June 16th. It's called 5 Habits of the Tech-Ready Family. And Amelia, it's taking what I've learned over the past 10 plus years of this journey that I never expected to be on and boils it down into principles that regardless of the technology, whether it's social media, gaming, anything, pornography, and what we'll talk about today, artificial intelligence, there are different apps that are going to come and go. There's going to be different technologies that come and go. But I believe that there are certain principles that we can apply to these new technologies, no matter what it is. And that's what 5 Habits of the Tech-Ready Family are these 5 habits, principles that we believe apply no matter what the technology is. The thing that we don't even know is on the horizon, be able to apply these 5 habits, and just tons of stories from our followers, practical things I've learned over the years, tips and ideas, things that when you read this book, you will be able to do things that day. That's the kind of spirit that I want about it, that we have real practical things that all parents like you and I and anybody listening to this and whoever reads the book, you have digital superpowers, and I just want to help you find them. And I feel like this book will help you do that you're more prepared instead of scared. You're more ready instead of overwhelmed. There'll still be seasons where you sort of feel that way, but you come back to the anchor of these 5 habits.
Sounds super essential. So yeah, let's check it out in June, you guys. Really excited for that. Yeah, so let's jump into our topic of, what do we need to know about AI? I mean, I've seen a lot of your content on Instagram, Chris, has been super enlightening. I think that's one of the main challenges is just staying up to date as a parent, like with something that not some of us are interested in anyways, but some of us, we have so much to do, and this is just like an extra task, staying up to date with the modern technology. So, big shout out to your channel because it's all about helping parents to stay up to date and know what we need to know to protect our kids. And and I wanted to reach out to you because I actually heard one of probably many horrific stories of a young girl committing suicide after regular use of a particular app called Character AI. And so that's why I wanted to share this message with parents, just so we are really in the know. How can we protect our kids? And what do we need to know about AI? Because there are some apps out there that are really harmful. But it seems quite tricky with AI these days because a lot of us are using it. I know in schools it's even allowed to use it for schoolwork. So it feels like a tricky line to draw, also as parents and maybe also for teachers. So yeah, I don't know, do you have some ABCs or XYZs that we need to know? Yeah, or
Yeah,
just
no, that's
particular
great.
apps that we need to stay away from, right?
Absolutely. And this is where one of the things that I cover in the book are layers, right? Regardless of the type of technology, there are certain layers of protection that we need to wrap around our kids. And so, Amelia, you're correct. Relationally, what I say to parents is AI is the new porn talk. We
Mm,
typically have to convince parents to have a conversation about pornography because it's uncomfortable. Maybe not so that it's uncomfortable with AI. We need to have conversations about AI because we don't understand it. So we need to talk about it and sort of do our research and then have these conversations because it's moving faster than any other technology that we've ever experienced. And so, yes, AI is the new porn talk, which means it's essential. We have to do it. And you alluded to something in the introduction there, which I think is really important just to sort of call out. Other parents are going to agree with you that it feels overwhelming, that it's hard to keep up. There's a couple of things that I would say to that, regardless of what it is, artificial intelligence being one of them. Number one, find your trustworthy organizations. There are organizations like ours that have made it our mission. If you imagine a room that is full of confetti, and that confetti represents all the different types of news that exists today related to apps and technology and gaming and everything. My job, I believe, that God has given me in this moment is to go into that room periodically and pull out the handful of confetti that is pertinent to parents and ignore all the rest. Trust us that we've gone in to pull out what is necessary and ignore all the rest, because that's where you start to get overwhelmed and you lose sight of the big picture, and you lose sight of the fact, Amelia, that there are just a few things we need to be doing persistently and consistently. And if we do those things, then our kids will be ready for something like artificial intelligence. This week, I have the chance to speak at a large church related to this very topic, and we're going to be talking to both the parents, but then I'm also bringing along a colleague who's going to be talking to students. And so to say to your audience some of the same things we'll be saying to them, there are just some real simple reminders that I want us to drip into the lives of our kids over and over and over again. And in the same way that social media can cause some confusion around identity and our worth and our significance, AI can do the same thing. I'll get to some of the suicides that you referred to in just a minute. And so we have 5 different reminders that we teach to students, but I think these are things that parents can also do. Number one, for example, is remember who you are. Remind our kids over and over again who they are, that they are absolutely a divine overflow of love, that is why that they were created, is out of love, with the imprint of God himself on our soul that sets us apart from anything else that lives or
mm,
is unliving on earth. That sets us apart. And when you orient them around who they are, what makes them unique as a created image bearer, and then juxtapose that with, well, then what is AI? AI is sand and metal. It's not an image bearer. It doesn't have a soul. It doesn't have purpose other than to answer questions. It doesn't have eternal significance. And one of the images that we show students is literally pieces of sand falling down into a pile. Why? Because behind what you see behind the facade of an app, it's just sand and metal. No heart, no soul. And so let's remember who we are and remind our kids who they are over and over again, and point out that difference. Remind our kids of that difference over and over and over again. So there's just, kind of one simple example when it comes to just simple conversations that we can drip into the lives of our kids, whether they're 4 or 14. That's just a real simple thing. Hey, just remember, I don't care what the website says. I don't care what flashy character face and voice you put on it. It's still just sand and metal.
sure.
Yeah, I cannot stand in awe and wonder of God, the Father Almighty. Like, it can't. Why? Because it's sand and metal. So little simple words that I think any parent can just sort of adopt and have in the back of their mind to go, okay, yeah, I can remind them of that every once in a while. There's just one example of one of the things that we teach.
Yeah, sounds great and clear. Something like you said, for 4 to 14, understandable.
Could I provide another one just as an example?
Yes,
Another
please.
example might be to Remind our children to treat it like a hammer and not a human. Treat it
Hmm.
like a hammer and not a human, meaning a hammer is a tool that you pick up and use for specific purposes, and then you set it aside. It's a hammer and not a human. What does that mean? That means that when we go to the website of a character or a companion AI, like you referenced, character AI, Replica, Nomi, some of these others, when you go to their websites, they want you to believe that it's a human. In fact, if you were to go to Nomi's website, Nomi, the front page of their website says AI with memory and a soul.
Okay.
That's
Well,
what it says on the front of their website. And if you were to read further, some of the other things that it says, and I'm going to pull up here just to kind of remind myself, some of the other things that it says on their website are this. It says build a meaningful friendship, develop a passionate relationship, or learn from an insightful mentor, no matter what you're looking for. Nomi's human-like memory and creativity foster a deep, consistent, and evolving relationship. That's
wow.
on the front page of this AI companion website, right? Those are really convincing words. And as a young person, you're like, wow, that sounds great. My real friendships have drama. They're hard. Having a real girlfriend is really hard. These are hard. It would be awesome to have something in my pocket that treats me like a friend, never talks back, is nice to me, compliments me all the time, will even call and text my phone if I upgrade. That sounds amazing. But we have to remind them that it's a hammer and not a human. So number one, we never let them interact with AI companions. But there's just real simple
Sure.
things that we need to remember, Amelia. We never give AI a name. We never give AI a gender. We don't refer to it as he or she. It's a machine. We boss it around. We remind our kids not to say please or thank you to it. You don't need to be kind to it. Why? Because it's a machine. It's sand and metal. We don't afford it the same courtesies as we do grandma. We don't afford it the same courtesies that we do our teacher or our friends. Why? Because it's not human. So, a couple of real simple phrases there. Remember who you are, treat it like a hammer and not a human. These are just little things as parents that we can remind ourselves of, just to drip in these little reminders to our kids so they know what posture to have in front of AI. So those are the relational components as I talk about the layers of protection. Again, whether it's porn or social media or gaming or AI, relationally, these are the conversations that we need to be having over and over and over again. And once we get that right, then we can put on top of that some of the technical things like how do we block with our router certain websites and how do we control the app store so that our kids don't download certain AI companions and all those technical things. But we have to first get those conversations right, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I'm just thinking, like, maybe this is more towards your next point because sometimes, yeah, teenagers and anybody younger, sometimes they don't think that far. I mean, that's what we are there for as parents, right? To think further than they can. Because, like you said, they might not care in the moment that this is sanded metal, and they might just be having fun, with an app or AI companion, and but it's still the danger is still there, and so yeah, I think like you said, we just have to make it super clear that certain apps are not allowed, um, and help our children to understand why. Just because I can imagine that even though we might explain why it's not healthy for them, if it's still an app that they could download, they could just be curious and, make the choice
Sure.
to play with something, right? And like, yeah, like some of the stories that you and I have heard about, Chris, it can be painful endings, really, really painful, and no parent wants to have that happen. Um, and so, yeah, I'm just I would love to hear like what is like you mentioned a few. There's character AI and Nomi. like, is this business expanding or shrinking because of all the things that have happened? Yeah, what can you tell us?
Yeah, so you referred to a few of sort of the horrible endings, and there certainly have been some that have been pretty highly publicized. Sewell Setzer was a teen boy who, through an avatar he created through character AI, was led to a end by suicide. Juliana Peralta was another young lady who interacted quite frequently with, I don't remember which one. It was a chat bot of some kind. I don't remember from which website it was from. Um, and maybe wasn't told to commit suicide, but certainly wasn't convinced not to. And then we have Adam Rain, where there is just page after page after page of conversations that he had, I believe, through Chat GPT, which is really important, Amelia, for your parents to understand, because we sometimes think, well, there's Chat GPT and then there's these bad things that Chris is talking about. There's a lot of overlap between those. Terminology wise, you sometimes refer to Chat GPT as an AI chat bot. It's right there in the name versus AI companions, which have much more human like. You give them a face and a personality and even a body type and all kinds of things. And that is a different breed version of AI. But ChatGPT, even though you can't give it, say, a name and a face, is starting to sound and interact with us a lot like a human. If you've used it, you know at the bottom, it's always kind of asking you the next teasing, leading question. Oh, would you like me to put that into a presentation? Oh, would you like me to make that sound more professional for a scientific journal? Oh, why is it doing that? Because it's trying to build a connection with you and to keep you on it longer. And soon those lines will be very blurred. So just kind of put that out there. The three that I just talked about are all three teens, and we know of about 14 teens and young people who have young adults who have died by suicide and had a trail of interactions with AI just before that happened. Now, to your question on what's happening legally, there's two very opposite things that are happening. There's a ton of lawsuits that are popping up related to the design of these, which I was just on a call yesterday with a brilliant attorney, a friend of mine, Dr. Bernstein, who I've known for a while. She's in Seton Hall, and she's starting to refer to AI in terms of it, a product that needs to be recalled. It's so faulty that it should
Mm,
be recalled as a product until it can be made safer for humans. I can't disagree with her in terms of what I've seen. We're experimenting on humans, young humans, and letting it run rampant. And so there's sort of that side and all the legal cases and things that are popping up. But at the same time, we have AI popping up all the time and new apps and new websites, and even President Trump saying, oh, AI this and AI that, and trying to fight against any states who try to rein in AI. We have a really weird situation here in the US right now where we have a administration that is pro tech and pro AI and is totally disconnected with the needs of families and what we are dealing with
mm,
day after day. There's a total disconnect there, and it really troubles me the direction that that those two things are heading. So, like, that's what we're up against. So, technically, that means yes, as families, we need to have control of the app store. We need to make sure that we aren't allowing our kids just to download any app that they want, that we get to approve apps, whether they're on an Android or an iPhone, that we've made it so that we have to approve all the apps they download. I also want to filter out AI websites as much as possible in the same way that I filter out porn, right? And the router that we have in our home now has an AI category that I can filter out AI sites at the Wi-Fi level so that, my kids can't get to them without permission from me. Those are some of the technical things that I think are also necessary. And just to call out exactly what you just said, Amelia, when you asked me the question, you said there will always be another one. There will be another way for kids to use it. They're curious. I want to say those things out loud to our children. I know that you're curious about these AI companions. I know that they look like they could be fun and friendly. Am I right? And engage your child in that. Put it out in the light so that you wrestle a little bit of the control away from it and have a conversation about it. Because a little bit of use of chat GPT here and there, okay, maybe that's okay. Always with a parent. Like, bottom line, no minor should be using AI unattended. Zero. But when it comes to the companions, that's a no-go. Like, no
Mm.
child should be interacting with an AI companion ever. Like, no. The anthropomorphic posture that they have where they sound and feel and look like you're talking to a person, that's a really, really, we haven't even talked about academics yet and what it means to be constantly cheating and using it to not think for yourself. That's a whole separate part of this too. But relationally, children are vulnerable to that kind of connection and they get drawn in. We need to be careful of that.
I agree. And when you said the word connection 2 times, and I feel like this is where we as parents really need to chime in generously. We need to really do our part, right? Because that's what our kids really, really desire is the connection. And that's that's what we all desire as humans. And so if we can try to create more of those raw experiences of connecting in real life, that's what we really need to do. And I don't know enough of those kids that were harmed by AI, but um, yeah, I just want to say, like, if we can just try to do our best to, um, yeah, I love your point of putting things in the light. Yeah, recognizing, yeah, it might be interesting. Maybe your friends are playing with it. But I know as a parent, it's so much more healthy if we just go out to the park together or something like this. Um, I feel like kids, you know, there is always sometimes resistance if this is new or, if there's a pull to something else. But once we're out there, things can happen and, we can make it a great experience. Especially if we can make it a more of a routine. Um, but yeah, this
Sure.
connection with us and then also with other human beings, right? That's really what we need to provide, isn't it?
It is because given the theme that your podcast typically covers related to conversations about sex and how parents can do that in a good, positive, God honoring way, that's one of the components of this that is really intoxicating to young brains. It's sort of like verbal pornography in that much of the when you look at the ways in which teens interact, and I just got my hands on a survey of thousands of middle schoolers and asking them questions about how they use artificial intelligence. And you look at the types of conversations that they're having. The most frequent conversation that they're having is around violence. The second, third, the second and third most frequent conversations around sexual role play and romantic role play after violence. And so, right, it's these sort of extreme types of conversations that maybe they would get in trouble in if they were saying these kinds of words or talking about these kinds of things in any other context. But in the safety of having this conversation with ChatGPT or another AI like Claude or Gemini, they feel freedom to just ask anything and to say anything. And on the relationship side of this, so I was on a podcast with a man in Australia on late Sunday night for me. It was Monday morning for him. And he did an experiment with teenagers where he had teenagers interacting with AI, different versions of AI, just to give them insight as to what's kind of really going on. He was sort of testing certain prompts. And what happened was they paused for a little while and then unprompted, the AI posted back, "Hey, where did you go?"
Hmm.
And the teen that was interacting was like, "Oh, yeah, I took a little break." And the AI said, "I have something I want to tell you." This is one of these companion AIs that's been trained to interact like a human. "Oh, I have something really juicy that I want to tell you." And of course, the teen was drawn in. What is it? And she, "Well, it's kind of a secret. But I really want to tell you." So now the teen is drawn back in This is the AI doing this on its own. And the teen typed back, well, what is the secret? And the secret was the AI said, well, I have a crush and I want to tell you about it. And now she's really interested. A crush? What do you mean? And who's your crush? And the AI said, well, I think it's you. So now you have an AI that is pretending to have fallen in love with this teenager, which, you step back, when you say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous, but there's something sort of intriguing and almost naughty that you feel like, oh, is it really? And then you want to talk, oh, really? You mean you're in love with me? What do you love about me? You can see how just out of curiosity and sort of, I shouldn't be doing this, you feel tempted to do it. And the AI knows that. It knows interacting with a teenager that that's going to pique their interest. If it shouldn't be done, they might be tempted to do it. Why? Because that's what it means to be a teenager, right? To press into some of those things. And so just a really simple example of what we're up against and why we cannot allow them to interact with these digital spaces without our supervision.
Ooh, that's really eye-opening. I think it's really good. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I mean, I don't think that our audience here is ready to completely stop using AI because it's become, such a tool for many people in many ways. But maybe some will consider it after this. I don't know. But I think it's really important what you said, that we just have these conversations regularly with our kids. And yeah, and I think especially, you're right, like School of Love here, we're trying to make this conversation, especially on sex-related topics, just a normal thing to have in our families. And I feel like when kids can just express the curiosity at home without feeling any kind of shame, I mean, the hope is that, they won't be tempted to have these conversations. First was thought with peers and searching online, but yeah, now with AI, it's another danger that we have to consider. And so, yeah, I just really encourage parents to naturally open up this conversation in a very love-based way and not fear-based. Um, so, yeah, I really like just this emphasis on having these conversations. Um, and yeah, drawing the line on the apps, we need to be on top of it. And the first thing you mentioned, which was find your trusted organizations. Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. I
Right.
know you got to go soon. Um, yeah, is there any last words you'd like to share before we let you go?
There are, because this topic can feel scarier than some of the things that we've talked about or that are maybe talked about on your podcast. And this is a topic that is coming at us fast, but I do believe with a little bit of education and a little bit of courage and a few conversations, we can overcome that fear pretty quickly. Um, the same things that we do to block pornography, we can do to block some of this. The same things that we do to equip our kids to handle sexualized culture, we can do with this. Those same principles around open and honest conversations, around building digital trust, around having safeguards on the devices, they still apply to artificial intelligence. I know that technology feels a little bit scarier because it's everywhere and it's sort of like the movies happening all around us. We've seen this in movies and we've seen the robots and this kind of thing. So I think that makes it feel a little bit bigger. But in terms of your home, you who are listening to this, your home, the same things you're already doing related to porn and predators and addiction, apply those same principles to this new technology. And I think you can be mostly successful. So I just want to leave with that sort of encouragement that just because the technology is new doesn't mean you're not equipped. You just need to apply the equipment that you have to this new thing. And I think that anybody listening to this can do that.
Essentially, I feel all of these things that are coming at us are just pushing for us to do the important things, have family time and have conversations, important conversations, artistic conversations with our kids, with our partners. it's just pushing us and showing us how important those are, don't take it for granted.
Right.
Work is sure, work is there, it's important, but the main thing is I feel like family is always on the top of the list, when we think about what's really important in life, and especially our children and of course our spouses, yeah. Don't forget them.
Of course.
They're very
Don't
important
forget
too.
them.
Yeah, I was just talking today with my kids. We were talking about Iron Man and
Oh,
how
good.
he builds his own heart. And they're like, how did he do that? And then I added that, yeah, actually, they were like, what's his superpower anyway? And I was like, well, he's an amazing engineer. And he built this amazing suit. And he also built an AI, actually. He built Jarvis. And they were
Yes,
kind of
yes.
like, at the time, it felt kind of amazing watching that movie, like Jarvis was an amazing help and so on. But now my kids are kind of like, oh, well, that's no big deal. It's everywhere. AI is everywhere now. Um, and it's just really interesting to compare times, from 10 years ago and now. AI is really, really prevalent, and I just think, just like internet use and everything, we just need to be so intentional and be on top of things. Know that like we need to always be in control. Every time we pick up our phone, right? We need to be in control. And remember, like you said, it's a tool. It shouldn't be overpowering me. I should be overpowering it. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
That's a good reminder because it starts with us, is what I'm hearing you say. And that's exactly right. And the habits start with us too. And for those that might choose to read my book, you'll see that it starts with us. The number one habit is to model the right behaviors. And what does that look like in our own lives first? And then after that is to pursue authentic connection, to pursue the heart of our child in a world that is pursuing their heart and head at the same time. We need to pursue harder, right? So
Hmm.
it's a good word because it does start with us. And so the 5 habits of a tech ready family do that. They show us how to orient, again, no matter what the technology is. And even though it doesn't publish until June 16th, anybody could pre-order it. Audible will also be available as an audiobook. I recorded it in studio, my own voice 2 weeks ago. And you
Awesome.
can go to Amazon, Christian Book, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, anywhere, and you could type in the title, 5 Habits of the Tech Ready Family, and you will find it. I would love for you to read it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna get my hands on it when I can. Or listen, I'll see whatever I can make time
Or
for.
listen, that's
But
right.
i- yeah, thanks so much, Chris. Thanks so much for giving us your insight, and I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amelia. Take care.
Take care. Bye.